Witcher, the land of fluff and wine.
Exactly how I remembered it.
Welcome, everybody. I am Splinter47, and as always, joining me is Mr. C.H. Golrog.
Hello, hey, howdy, ladies and germs.
We are here for a very special edition of Bloody Thumbs Podcast. We're here to discuss the final epic, fantastic DLC that is The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine.
Mm-hmm.
The very last DLC for The Witcher 3. I cannot believe it has come down to this. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and I'm just so excited to talk about it, and have very much a lot of positive things to say about this installment of The Witcher. Blood and Wine is fantastic. Let's get that out of the way.
It is amazing, and where Hearts of Stone fit into kind of the traditional narrative aspects of the main game, where it was kind of this darker, moodier, more kind of depressing atmosphere of people, of kind of this personal darkness. Blood and Wine is a lot more upbeat without betraying that feeling, which is an incredibly hard line to walk.
Yeah, it's certainly. I have a lot of it's so well done the way that they did this. Like, they added more. It's a little bit more levity to the game than you normally would see in such a different environment that it has been like not touched by war at all. And you notice the difference. Like, it's crazy to see how different an area like Toussaint is compared to like the rest of the game, where it's just like it's all kind of like been a little bit worn out, and just like it's all just kind of like you notice the difference. It's just like one aspect when you first start out in the Witcher 3 game, it's like in Velen, and it's like it's just all worn out. Like, it's just been like a whole war has been gone through back and forth, and you go to Toussaint, it's like a night and day difference.
Yeah, because they don't have a war to worry about. They're so far south, they don't even know what's going on.
It's so colorful and green that you just like, is this a different game I'm playing?
Yeah, Novigrad, Nilfgaard, Velen, Skellige. Like, even Skellige, which is interesting because in the island area of where Skellige is, they're still talking about Nilfgaard. And
Right.
They're still talking about the effects of the war. And even to the extent of how it affects the main game. Whereas in Toussaint, it's not even a concern. And these people are... It's an amalgamation of, like, French, of French culture, and I want to say kind of Hungarian sensibilities about honor and drinking, and about the big feelings of, like, of genuine qualities being the ideal for every single citizen to strive towards. And it's not exactly... There are darker aspects to it, and we'll talk about that later. But it's very interesting how all of the characters believe in inherent goodness, and everyone's forced to live up to that feeling. And if you don't share it, then you're ostracized for it.
Exactly. Tag. It is very much more filled with like bright colors, so it's very much different than what you're normally used to in the main campaign, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's
just looking lush.
It is just beautiful. Like, it's just amazing how much work they put into this. Like, while Blood and Wine felt more like, it did feel like more like DLC, and it was still well
Hearts of Stone.
Hearts of Stone, yes. Hearts of Stone was well worth the price, and also it did feel like really good DLC, like solid DLC, and even at times felt like a whole a different additional full game. But like Blood and Wine is just a whole another level of DLC that you, like it's pretty much like a whole new game. Like, it could have easily, any other publisher or developer could have easily put this out and called it a sequel, like Witcher 4. Like, that's how much content it's in this DLC. Like, it's amazing how a developer like CD Projekt Red is like very much in the know on pretty much just like kind of like how DLC should always work. Like, it should be
Yeah.
adding on more to the material, and it should be like a whole new game, which is this is what it feels like. It's a whole new game with
While
such
building onto the
a lot of
original.
yeah, it was just a lot of content, and it's just not even needing to purchase it for full price. It's just a full $20 whole new game adding onto this world.
It's incredible. Like where Hearts of Stone was maybe like 15 hours. This is easily double that, maybe even double, like times that by 2.5. It is huge. It is breathtaking just how realized this part of the world is, how much history they have with a very different culture, how Geralt how he fits within that culture. And what I really like is, in this particular storyline, it's also kind of Geralt reflecting on how others see, the relationship of how others see him. Whereas the other ones, it's a relationship with people around him. But this one, he actually finally has to take a kind of a hard look at himself and think to himself, am I a monster? Am I someone who is a part of society? Can I ever fit in society? And it's a really interesting tale, especially since he's brought in for a contract of a monster that's been killing several knights, and nobody knows why. And so he starts to investigate, and it starts involving a lot of the high royals of the land, including the Queen Anna Henrietta, who is ruling the land, and there's a tournament going on, and there's something else sinister happening in the background. And at the same time, he's dealing with an old friend of his named Regis, who is a vampire friend, and he suspects there's probably some more other natural elements going on in the background.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just answer Tag's question real quick. The world that Geralt is in, it is within the world of The Witcher 3. It's just not something they don't have. It's something that you don't have access to at all unless you purchase the DLC, because Toussaint is just a whole new map. Like, just how you go out into the world map and you select like different locations like Velen or Novigrad. Toussaint is in a league of its own. So it's like a huge map with well worth a bunch of new new contracts and whole new content. So it's partly, for the most part, you're partly in this location within the world of The Witcher. And I don't know how much we'll get into in terms of spoilers, but there's instances later in the game where you actually go into an alternate world, which is really freaking cool. How they did it, how they handled that stuff.
And it's interesting because the other types of Witcher lore and ideas of fantasy, they're very dark, they're very morbid, they're very cynical and nihilistic in some cases. And this kind of takes it on its head, where it's very genuine ideas about lore and content concerning the culture that's very uplifting. But then you have I'm not going to say what other element comes into play, where it is sort of a dreamscape, and how those fantasies can kind of wither and die as time goes on.
Exactly.
And the fantasy section, that is some of the funniest stuff I've seen, with the drunken person who doesn't want to see you outside of the house. I don't want to see any more in case we're going to go into spoiler territory later, but that just had me cracking up. And once again, they never waste a line of dialogue. It is rich, it is nuanced, it is layered. There's not a single character who's wasted. What I love is that they even get the side characters, once again, who have activities and different interactions that use the gameplay mechanics and story in new ways. Like there's a guy who just wants to go around and take pictures of animals for his bedridden daughter. And so what you do is you usually you're tracking down animals as Geralt, and you're using your Witcher senses to locate the animals, and then he takes the photos. And sometimes there'll be animals who attack you, and you have to defend yourself, and he'll take pictures of you doing that then.
Wow.
But when he takes the picture, the bulb flash is so immense that it temporarily blinds Geralt, so you have to make do with that. And it's just like brilliant little touches like that are sprinkled throughout the entire game. And the DLC, it's just fantastic. And I didn't think I'd be like, oh, okay, you know, I like some of the characters. Oh, for God's sakes.
Oh, my. They're calling you, CH. It's Activision.
I guess I misspoke when I said I could go into spoiler territory. I guess that's CD Projekt Red saying when they don't want any spoilers, and it's it's incredible. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
It's cool.
I'm sorry. Yeah?
No, go ahead.
I just want you just. It is very. They're constantly one-upping themselves on just these dialogue interactions that make you feel like you don't want to skip through these dialogue scenes, because just like you'll learn more through context of the information that you're given, and these not a speaking role is wasted here. Even they have children roles, which, you know, they didn't use a lot of children in the past. This time they use them incredibly well, and there is a lot of this very interesting morality play that colors a different culture, of course, and so. Yeah, I'm floored by how well this is written.
Yeah, and I thought that Hearts of Stone was just another step up in terms of DLC, and Hearts of Stone is still a fantastic addition as well to even invest in. And just Blood and Wine just takes it to a whole new level in terms of DLC. It's quite possibly, it's certainly one of the best DLCs I've ever played, and I've said it before. I like just finishing this and just playing through this whole series of. The game is expansive as it is. Just even without DLC, you're going to spend a lot of time playing the game. Just so many side quests that I haven't even completed that's still around for like the main game, and I feel like there's a lot more that I haven't even unearthed at all. There's like so much in addition to Hearts of Stone that included a lot of side quests as well and contracts, and the main mission, Blood and Wine, equally has as much, if not more, content than Hearts of Stone did. And it's just so happy that there's so many different possibilities for me to go, and I still haven't even touched a lot of the contracts. It's amazing how vast that they are. Not a whole lot of the monsters that they use in these contracts, or just how you encounter in the game, or none of them really repeat themselves. All of them are uniquely different in design and in the way you fight them. They all require different strategies. The Bruxas like you encounter in the early part of the Blood and Wine DLC.
Oh man,
pain in the ass.
They require,
but they're challenging. You know.
Yeah, and this one, whereas you could kind of duck and dodge and kind of hack your way and with other enemies, the vampiric enemies in this game require a much more honed in sense of timing and strategy, especially with a later boss who,
oh my God,
I would have to say that is one of the most frustrating experiences of my entire life, of just trying to say like, okay, so I gotta do this, and I gotta duck out of the way, and then I gotta count to 3 when they do this, and then I got to make sure that there's nothing behind me, because if there's something behind me, then I can't move, and you know, it's just it's that, and it's a lot more of you have to be more situationally aware of the environment this time around, which is something that, like before with the main game, really good combat, really solid combat. Hearts of Stone had more of the Dark Souls influence of, okay, you gotta understand what your enemy is doing and read the tells and then be able to attack. This one really puts a lot more emphasis on the environment and just understanding how to deal with multiple enemies who are incredibly hard, and with timing. And you either kind of adapt or you don't, and then you have to drop it down a level. But you know, if you succeed, then you feel like such a badass doing it.
I like how they added a bit more to the enemy types, because I felt like the enemy types in the original main game were not super difficult, and even the boss at the end of the original main campaign wasn't necessarily too difficult. It wasn't anything that took you out of your comfort zone and actually challenge you as much as it should have, especially for being a kind of an epic finale, especially since you were going against members of the Wild Hunt. I feel like certainly the Frog Prince was certainly a challenge in Hearts of Stone, but the later boss near the end of this DLC was 20 times more difficult than I originally thought. I thought the Frog Prince was the hardest boss in the Witcher series so far, but by the end of this Blood and Wine DLC, I was sorely mistaken. But I would say, Tag, that the Blood and Wine stands on its own, while also kind of like being a slight kind of goodbye as well, as to kind of, at least for now. I don't know if they'll continue this series at all, but at least with CD Projekt Red, they kind of already done what they could at this point with the series, and kind of written everything out to kind of have a conclusion and kind of more of a sense of like closure. So I would say that Blood and Wine is its own unique story, but it also still sprinkles in elements of the main campaign, and you'll see that by the near end of the campaign. And also just it was a great send off to the series as well, with all the amazing work that they did with the previous. It's pretty much like the Citadel DLC for Mass Effect a little bit.
That's a great comparison, because both are a little bit more lighthearted and a little bit more character based, and that is, I mean, it is, as you said, mostly it's its own story, but there are touches here and there and characters who pop up on occasion who remark on kind of what's going on at whatever point you are in the story. If you finish the main storyline, the characters will remark on that, or if you beat it, then the characters will remark on that as well. And it's all really about to what extent your Geralt has advanced so far, but it's mostly just its own story, and it is not really beholden to the main game. But there's several side stuff that are cool if you do.
Yeah, exactly. It's more of where you're at, or how you've proceeded so far into the main campaign. I can't really imagine. It's weird, because I tried playing Mass Effect 3 over, and it's a little bit off how you proceed into accidentally bleeding into the Citadel DLC when you haven't beaten the game. So it's certainly one of those things where I feel like it's best to play after you beat the game.
Well, you can't really. You can't actually play the game unless it's in the middle of the story. You can't actually play Citadel at the end, because the end of the game is the end of the problems of the antagonists in the series.
Yeah, that's how I ended up playing mine. It felt just right. Like it didn't. Like they've already gone through. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, you mean chronologically?
Yeah, chronologically.
Okay. My mistake. I thought you meant like literally that you could play it after the game. It's like, oh, the Reapers are gone, but we're still talking about the Reapers. I was like, I don't remember that.
I don't know. My memory is very, very foggy on it, because it brings up a lot of sore memories, and also some.
Oh, that original ending.
How the original ending happened. I was so devastated, but nevertheless, Jesus, man, Blood and Wine lived up to all of my expectations. I never been so impressed, and all of my expectations exceeding were so high, and it surpassing my expectations. It was just amazing. I like the variety of different gear and armor you get, and how you have the ability to actually change the color of your armor, and you get like different dyes to change the color of your Witcher gear as you progress into the game. I just like how challenging it is, and a lot of additional gameplay aspects they added to it, and they added a bit more flavor to a lot of the horseback related combat, and also the way that you do races. At least with this one, when you're at the tournament, you actually do a little bit something more different. It's not really a battle for getting to the finish line first. It's more of like not running out of time before you get to the finish line. So you're actually having to you're actually having to cut down dummy troops and also like shoot targets with your bow and arrow in order to extend the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also a race against time, and also in order to increase your time, you have to be very precise because it could be a little bit challenging at times. I never really use a whole lot of combat on the horse because Roach would get too scared easily and just throw me off if I even try to do that. Try to like slash enemies while I'm on the horseback.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really do that, but at least with this one, you have that option, and it actually it works pretty decently for the most part. But I never really invested too much into that.
Well, unlike the Batmobile in Arkham Knight, they don't force you to use it and like just get used to it. They only do it for a couple of times. The one being the tournament, and the other one being the personal jousting.
Right. That was another one too. It was fine, but I'm glad that they didn't force you to do it a whole lot, as the Arkham Knight's Batmobile vehicle segments proved to be kind of the bane of that last entry of the series there.
Yeah,
I'm glad that they at least gave you the option to do it for at least probably 2 missions at least, and after that you kind of scrap it.
Yeah, and once again, it was adding on to something that had come before and that you had the option to do, but just made it a little bit more robust and actually desirable to utilize. Like horseback riding, there's just something weird about the timing when you swing, when you swing the sword on your horseback. That's a bit off.
Yeah, it always ends up missing.
Yeah,
you have to do it just right, and
like
then
where's the hit detection?
Yeah, you have to do it just right, and then the game will slow down just like it does when you're aiming with your bow and arrow, and then that way you'll be able to get a clean swipe. Even then, sometimes I swipe early and then I miss. It's like, damn it. That's why I never really bothered to do it, because horseback is nice sometimes to get around it, but it's also a little wonky. Mm-hmm. Certainly much better than Red Dead Redemption's horseback riding sometimes, but I end up like. At least with like Roach, whenever I try to whenever he doesn't cross a body of water, I'm able to work the game out a little bit to kind of make him jump over the kind of like path of water and not end up dying. So Roach is pretty durable. Like at least with like Red Dead, and if you miss a turn or you go too fast and just fall off a hill, you're dead immediately. But at least with this, you don't really. It's kind of impossible to die. Riding with Roach, so at least you're able to make some crazy jumps and not have to deal with like trying to like awkwardly like position Roach to go on the right path, so that like it just feels weird because he just gets stuck. It's like, come on, Roach, damn it! And I have to get off and start walking to get to my waypoint.
Yeah, there's still something. It's weird because of how the physics engine and the gameplay work in the game, that you have to sort of compromise on the navigation of how you get around the world for being so open-ended. But I felt like they did a good job, and for at least when they did the horseback riding segments, they confined them, so it was at least a little bit more manageable. Like, okay, I could work here, I could do this here, within kind of an enclosed space, so you know your surroundings a bit better.
Exactly. I actually want to get into, at least for the next 20 minutes or so, just kind of wrap up our discussion on Blood and Wine. I want to get into a little bit more of spoiler territory, in terms of like a lot of the highlights for the game, before we move on to our next segment, which we'll do separately in the two different audio podcasts of Game of Thrones. I want to delve into more of the main story aspects and how that proceeded and how that all played out. And another thing too, I once again, they do side quests just incredibly well again. Like, just even the side quest itself, like, you can lead yourself to a lot more of a denser little side quest that it just has nothing to do with the main story at all. It's just like you have certain contracts you'll do that delves into more of a little extra story aspects that are just so good. and you delve into that, and just it's not even necessarily have any impact in the main game. But I like how they always keep adding a lot more, so much detail to side quests that they don't even feel like side quests most of the time. They feel like a part of the main mission. Just how well written and how much dedication they put into all of their side quests. That stuff is phenomenal. I just thinking about some of the things that happened. I really enjoyed the quest where you're helping out one of the fair ladies over there at the tournament, and then how she ended up having a curse where she's actually kind of like turns into like a bird at night, and you notice that before you even talk to her, you notice in her tent, you notice in her tent that she invested a lot of money into into lotions and a lot of cream in order to kind of suppress her curse and kind of have like disenchantment elements. And Geralt talks about how these potions can have harsh effects over in the long run. And it's just it was an interesting little quest too. It's just I really liked how that played out. How this guy that I don't even think he barely knew this woman, and he was like so infatuated and in love with her that he would actually take her curse onto him. I thought it was an interesting little side story, and I liked how it has a lot of this one in particular. I felt it has a lot of fairy tale elements to it, and that gets into a lot more emphasis later on to when Geralt goes into another universe.
Oh yes,
it has fairy tale elements that I really liked a lot.
Oh god, yeah. And what's interesting is that because of your experience in Hearts of Stone and the main game, you're expecting the worst. Like you've been tempered to expect the worst, and when you finally when you first meet the knights of I can't remember not Truffaut of the country Toussaint, where they finally come across and they're defending the weak and the downtrodden. It seems like the weirdest thing in that universe, because it's just like, have you not been playing these games where people are selfish? They do things for money or for glory or for power, and even it's Witcher accompanying these two soldiers who are trying to stop these guys from burning down and taking things from a village, and they're speaking in this flowery language and just saying stop, true villains, if your heart is vile, cease and desist, and they're just the fuck are you saying, man?
Yeah, it's a completely whole new world over there in Toussaint. It was an interesting fresh of breath of fresh air, because you noticed this too in the with the NPCs dialogue as well. You go through the city of Toussaint, and the people are actually really grateful for you being there. They don't not like the other places like Velen and Novigrad. They freaking hate you and throw some. They say some terrible things to you as you walk through the streets.
Yeah.
The people in Toussaint, they're actually grateful for you being there.
It's to the point where people, I would assume players are off put by this. Just aren't you gonna throw things at me? Aren't you gonna call me a monster? And aren't you just gonna spit in my face? And no, it's interesting because honor is the biggest element in this culture, and it's a strict definition of it. But if you don't have honor for others, then you're thought of as lesser. For instance, you have this interesting dichotomy of Damien de la Tour, who is the Queen Henrietta's kind of right-hand guard, and there's this point towards the end where, where we'll talk about that, but where Geralt needs to free somebody, and it's this very interesting dichotomy of he's so focused on being honor-bound that it's actually it being inhibiting to what he needs to do, what is right, which is save other people from the wretched vampire attack that's going on.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into, now, since we're kind of in spoiler talk, we'll get into how everything kind of unfolded in the main story. I think I saw like a review for it somewhere and saying how the villain was kind of weak, but I actually thought that it was really a lot more dense than I expected it to be. It actually really panned out a lot more well than I thought it would be. Like it has more density than I actually intended it to have. It was I thought it was really well done in all aspects in terms of like the reveal and also just like the whole entirety of that, how it ended. So it, frankly, as we mentioned before, there have been attacks at Toussaint where a couple of knights have been killed, and Geralt's unraveling the mystery as to why these particular individuals were killed, and you find out a little bit more that it has more to do with ended up having to do with a Deadloff being actually blackmailed to kill these folks in order to rescue his lover, who ended up, what was the original name? It ended up being
it was Sienna, who he says it's the different name will come up, the true name, who has been stolen from him. He believes that she was taken from him in the middle of the night. Yeah. And Regis, who's, I don't know what the hell that was about.
Background music.
I guess just we're in Toussaint and so fancy that someone's playing the violin. But Regis is involved because it's involving another vampire, and it's interesting because they have their own code in society. It's like, listen, higher vampires, they don't really care about humanity. Like, they're so above and beyond them that it doesn't matter. But Dettlaff has fallen in love with Sienna, and he is just so emotionally head over heels in love that he's kind of gone crazy, and he doesn't care what the reasonings are. He doesn't really care the things that he has to do to find her. He's just like killing indiscriminately because somebody keeps sending him messages of saying, you will kill this person and this person and this person. Yeah. And at first they don't really seem to have a lot in common until you start piecing things together.
Yeah, that's when things start to get a little bit more interesting. So, Regis has explained that for him, at least, I don't know about other higher vampires, but at least with this higher vampire, Dettlaff is very driven by emotion, and necessarily that will do whatever it takes to kind of get the love of his life back. So that was kind of like the main motivation for that. Mm-hmm. And you encounter this, that when you have your first battle against him, he is powerful. Like, it was almost to the point where I didn't think I'd be able to beat him, and then fortunately halfway through that battle it went through a cutscene, and you had Regis kind of come in there and help you out, and he talks about how only higher vampires can kill one another, so I don't even think we could really have much of a chance against them until later on. We'll get into more details on how that plays out. But as you progress through the Blood and Wine DLC, Anna Henrietta, the Duchess of Toussaint, hires you for this contract to get figure this out, to take care of this whole mystery that's been going on at Toussaint, because rarely anything crazy like this happens, so people are scared and worried about just this ever-ending unknownness of monster attacks that are going on. And as you progress through the game, the plot gets a bit more interesting, and you find out more that the woman that Dettlaff is trying to rescue was never in distress. It was Sienna that ended up being unveiled as Anna's sister.
Sylvia Anna.
It gets into a lot more information as you learn more about her, that she was using Dettlaff to actually to kill the knights that did her wrong when she was younger. And you get into more of a deeper story about her and Anna. Then she was kind of like, both of them really got along when they were younger, and through unfortunate incidences, ended up kind of like getting her in trouble and kind of blaming her for those troubles, and she ended up getting sent off and losing her title and her birthright honors of like anything related to Toussaint, and she was very distraught about that, and Anna was very regretful for that happening, and because her younger child antics that kind of led to this, and you find out more information about that, and it leads into Sienna having very much of a very harsh distaste for Anna, and to the point where you find out later that there was an additional target that Dettlaff was supposed to kill, and then you find out that it was supposed to be Anna.
And it is kind of it starts out as a very almost un-Witcher-like story, where it seems to be very painted by who's bad, who's good, and what is really the kind of clearly defined aspects of protagonist and antagonist, until you finally... And, like, there's a point where Regis and Geralt capture Sienna, and you think it's like a very simple, I wanted to be queen, so I wanted to take over kind of plot. Like, that seems a little bit too simple, and it is. Because Sienna was unfortunately born on a very a supernaturally afflicted day, where people had assumed that she was tainted by evil, and that had colored impressions of her.
Oh, right,
and, yeah. And people treated her differently, and because of several misunderstandings or childish mistakes or even misrepresentations, there comes a point where their parents have to send her away, and she's not mad at her for doing that. She's mad at her sister for like having a royal sanction saying like, you can come back and you're not cursed, because there's the sense of tradition and the honorable respect of culture that is so high up, it won't allow for any modicum of freedom, and Sienna just loses it. And the knights that were supposed to escort her out they stopped being knightly and chivalrous. Like, one was beating her, I think one was verbally abusing her, and
right.
She came across a gang of scavengers and of thieves, and she thought what like anyone would think, if you've been playing this universe where it's like it's a little 10-year-old girl, they're either going to kill her, rape her, or take her for hostage, and they gave her a home. And it's this very interesting morality play of like, okay, you can see from her side, the knights are only chivalrous when society is involved, and these men who society has deemed to be evil are actually good without society. And at this point, she doesn't really give a damn about the royal process. And Dettlaff's, she's begins becoming infatuated with him only kind of from a superficial sense, and then realizes, I can manipulate him into doing these things for me. And so she does. And Dettlaff, who, unlike Regis, kind of has this cultural barrier he doesn't really understand, and so he speaks in these very grand gestures. And I think that this is their interpretation of Dracula, where, it's this very romanticized notion of love and of grand gestures and dark magic and everything that builds up to this morbidly gothic tale from Dettlaff's side.
Yeah.
And for Sienna, it's this much more personal tale of trying to get what she thinks is her revenge. She doesn't seem to have much thought of what happens afterwards.
It was really well done. Like, it took a lot of the conventions that you're normally used to with The Witcher in terms of like motivations and your kind of idea of like the villain. It took it on its head, and it's actually much more. It was more simpler than it actually was. Thinking back on it, like it was really well done. It was really told really well, but it was like very also simplistic in a way, which is not a bad thing. It was just really it was told really well.
it's all character stuff.
It's all yeah, just like the series has all been very character motivated, and I just like the process of how you find all this information out, and it leads to this point where Deadloff was just mainly a tool for this issue, this sibling kind of issue that had occurred like so long ago, just driven by all this. Like, just all this had a huge effect on the city, and had so many deeper lines of like motivations than what we initially thought was the how it was going to end up ending. And
yeah.
So I think before
there's a lot of endings. I'm not sure what choices you did and what choices I did that cross over each other, because I chose one particular path.
Right. Yeah, I'll certainly get into that a little bit. I really didn't look into too much on what the endings were. I think there were maybe more than one. I want to try out the other ones to kind of see how that plays out. But
oh yeah.
Before you even find this out, before you even find out the Siena's behind this, I think this is before the unveiling of her motivations and everything. You get into more of that. You get into more of that story arc of her motivations, and you ended up trying to prevent her from trying to learn more about what her reasoning was behind all this, while at the same time Anna was kind of already at the point where she was fed up because it was taking so long for you to kind of accomplish this. She was so impatient. Before this happens, before you find out the unveiling, we have the epic battle of all battles, the boss fights of all boss fights in The Witcher 3, where you fight Deadloff. I mean, it gets to the point where I gave Regis the benefit of the doubt, and I went the route with okay, I won't go ahead and kill him right away, because he's already sent vampires to attack Toussaint, and is already becoming. Toussaint's under attack, and is slowly becoming just like every other place in The Witcher 3, where it's just all attacked and devastated by some kind of mythological or war type beings going on here. And I went the route of took Regis' word for it, and we went to go ahead and look for Sienna, and to convince her to and take her to Deadloff, because if she didn't return to him at a certain point, he was going to destroy the city of Toussaint at some point. And then we ended up finding her, and that's when you get into the fairy tale elements. Down the rabbit hole, pretty much. You find out that her and Anna had like this kind of secret world that they would go into for a while, like just to kind of have some playtime, I guess, to kind of get their minds out of the real world, and a lot of it had to do with a lot of fairy tale elements. Alice in Wonderland, Three Little Pigs,
The Emperor's New Clothes, the Big Bad Wolf.
So you ended up going inside this alternate universe that they would inhabit, and it was just all rich of like a lot of background stuff, a lot of history in there, especially with those two on what they were doing in there. So I had a lot of fairy tale elements, and it twisted it on its head in the Witcher style. Oh my god!
I just love how the Pied Piper is just playing his flute like along a path, and that's it. It's just like he's not an enemy, he's not a friend. He's just like they made that character, recorded that music, and had his animation, just so that he could be another character in the world that might not even take up 1/12 of the game running time.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting segment. It was freaking amazing. They turned every fairy tale element you can think of into turned it and twisted it into the Witcher style. You follow the golden road.
Yeah, follow that yellow brick road.
Yellow brick road, and then you encounter just a lot of different fairy tale stories, and it gets twisted into the Witcher's world. You encounter like
who's their version of a maester or a wizard?
Maester or wizard?
Because when Anna and Sienna were young, they had their version of a castle wizard, like make their vision for them. And because they were gone for like 3 decades and no one's been making sure that the world was kept up or in check, it's just like gone to hell. That there's Rapunzel. The play on that one was fucking dark.
Oh my god, it was like I mean, I think this is the
Gotta
last.
find beans.
Yeah, that's the last thing you can do. But in order to get out of this, you had to rescue Sienna from there and get out of that dreamscape, because she was locked in there as more of an imprisonment that Anna knew that she wouldn't be able to get out of temporarily, because she was imprisoning her, and also was like she had a lot of moral conflicts on what she had to do, because at one hand it was her sister, but at the other hand she manipulated a lot of things that ensued the death of the knights, and also created this chaos of vampires attacking Toussaint. So it's up to Geralt to work through this, and also kind of find a compromise with Anna, who was just completely fed up by the end of this story arc, because we were unable to catch Dettlaff many times, and she was so pissed. It's like, woman, this is a vampire.
And it's a question of who's ultimately responsible for all these problems. Is it Sienna who tricked Dettlaff into killing those people, or is it Dettlaff who summoned the vampires because he was so slighted and jaded because of the betrayal, or was it Anna Henrietta who didn't use her powers to forgive her sister for something that was completely not her fault?
Yeah.
And it's this fascinating just play of who's to blame. Like in in Hearts of Stone, the game focused on did Von Everec, did he actually is he actually worth saving? Is he good enough to be saved? Does he have to fulfill his promises? He was tricked into it. And that one was the role of taking on a responsibility for a debt. This is all about responsibility, really, of actions that you take and don't take. And what I find, this is just fascinating of how it all feeds into each other, and also feeds into how Witcher and the player make choices. And I gotta, just as a side note, you brought this up, where Henrietta, there's a point where she's getting frustrated, and I love the character writing, because everyone has, they're so rich, and they have their own faults and their own strengths, and with Henrietta, it's her royal status that pushes her to have confidence to do the things that she thinks is right, and sometimes that she just goes ahead full steam, and people love her for it, and then when she's backed up against a wall, she doesn't take criticism. She absolutely hates it and she uses it as a shield. Because, there's a point where Geralt, she's angry at Geralt and Regis for not being able to find the Dettlaff and killing Dettlaff. Yeah. And she constantly berates and insults Geralt for not doing something she really has no concept of.
Yeah.
And she has no experience in.
Yeah. And she makes the comparison that how you hunt an animal is just like hunting like a fox. She tells the story about that, and it's just, and you had the option to actually talk back to her really it's like the way she's been talking to you, and that. But I took the good route. I did. I took the higher road.
I took the greater of two evils in that case.
Yeah, you kind of had to at that point. It got a little bit out of hand, but I understand where she was coming from. She was very frustrated about it. I like that stuff. It was, like you mentioned, a lot of it. I can't really say falls on one person. A lot of it was a culmination of a lot of things. It was partly Dettlaff's fault, partly Anna's fault, and also Sienna's fault. The story is it's simple in its nature and motivations, but it's also very complex as well. It's not as easily to point a finger at somebody, because it's a culmination of a lot of things. That's what I like about it. That's what I like about the series. But we have, so we're back to
the fairy tale world.
Back to the twisted fairy tale world. Before you even get to the Rapunzel stuff, that shit was cool too.
Oh god, yeah.
So it was so twisted and cool. You encounter the boy who cried wolf. That was pretty cool.
That was hilarious. Well, everybody, wolves!
And then Geralt fell for it once, and after that, he didn't even bother. It was interesting, because you had to talk. It was an interesting way of talking to him. Because obviously everything he said was his lie, so you had to work around that. And
the opposite of everything.
Yeah, you encounter this other girl who was selling She was selling some. She was selling some hard stuff. She was selling like some drugs.
It was like the girl who sold. I can't remember what the original fairy tale was, or if it even was a fairy tale. But I thought it was something like the girl who sold straw, or the girl who sold like something very simple and something very mundane, like a farmhand would make and sell. But she like sells drugs, like Fist Tech. She sells tobacco. It's like, you're 12, aren't you? Like, why are you selling these things?
Right.
And the village is just like destroyed.
Exactly.
I just love how like it's a bright, exuberant world. Then we get to the village of the fairy tale world. It's just terrible.
Yeah. So there was that, and you encountered the big bad wolf. And before you even got into all that, you also got a little bit of the Hansel and Gretel too. You were fighting the witch. That boss fight was cool as well.
Yeah,
it was a pain in the ass though, but it was cool.
It was awesome. It was very unique, and also I'm really surprised that they made all that content just for the witch, and they never reused it. It's like one and done. It's not a particularly long fight either. It's a really fun fight, but it's not that long. And what I love about it is that I killed the witch, and then I still kept getting hit. I'm like, what the hell's hitting me? And then I turn around and it's her broom she was riding that's still smacking me. Like,
yeah. You had to destroy the broom and also destroy her, because if you killed the broom first, you would have to deal with like knocking her down, because she kept flying around and like pouring this concoction on you, and it would get in the way. And also like summoning these other enemy types. I just love the variety of enemy types and monsters as well throughout the whole game. Like all of them are all unique and never really reused, like more than maybe once or twice. They're all very distinct. Like you go through your bestiary, or whatever the hell that's called. It's like your Pokemon Codex for the Witcher. But you go through that, and like every single monster and enemy types you look at in here, it's all uniquely different. They all are designed differently. Mm-hmm. It's just so much there too, so much.
They got content. I mean, they're not afraid to reuse stuff. But like for the Rapunzel side quest, and for the for the Little Red Riding Hood side quest with the big bad with the wolf. But they are not. They also are very dedicated to making new stuff, and for new different kinds of monsters that you have to really outthink. There's I can't remember. It was like the wraiths by the water, who, if you sliced them enough, they like started to explode. Yeah. And they got a new version of them where you don't have to just like get 5 meters away. You got to get like 5 miles away, because they are about to explode with like chunks of razor wire and debris shooting out of them. And I was like, oh man, that's really cool and changing up stuff. I'm pissed because I didn't know that beforehand, and I'm dead, and I got to go through another damn loading screen. But that was awesome.
Yeah, loading screen, still not the best, but it certainly was not as worse as it originally was.
No.
You also had the more. I've dealt with a lot of them too. I wasn't a huge fan of them until I actually was able to kind of level up higher enough to not necessarily have to worry about them. You had the toxic spitting plants.
Oh yeah.
To deal with, or a pain in the butt. But they were cool to fight. Yeah, there was a lot of that thrown in there. So you fought the
centipedes.
Centipedes. You fought the witch. You fought a big bad wolf, which was cool to see, like a reinterpretation of that as well. And you fought the freaking pigs, the 3 little pigs, and the wolves too. The bears, the 3 bears.
Oh, I skipped that one.
I didn't even know you could skip it. I was just kind of trying to go in order before I even got to Rapunzel at the end. So you fought 3 bears, and all 3 of them were in bed. So you fought 2 giant bears, and you fought the little bear.
Oh.
Burn them alive.
Oh.
Because you were trying to find the beans, so I went there, and then no beans were there, but I fought the 3 bears, and then I fought the 3 little pigs, and the big bad wolf.
The big bad wolf, I love him, because he is like hungover from the night before, and he's like, who the hell should I drink with? Thumbelina? She drinks 1 shot glass and she's done.
Yeah, that was funny. That was funny interaction. And you went through all that, and you find the magical beans to get out of there.
You know what I find very interesting about Sienna during all this is this was like her childhood home that she hasn't revisited in like 20 years.
Yeah.
And she's just so callous about killing all these fairy tales off and getting the beans. And there's something in the back of your mind going like, okay, this place really isn't real, but there's something to be said about just like how not at all moved by just the death and carnage you both inflict.
Yeah, also, even though she's been there for a while, she mentioned that being in this world for like at least a couple hours or so, it will feel like minutes. So it's crazy how much things have escalated into chaos. With like, imagine just being away for that long, and compared to the world time in there, it's kind of quick. It's kind of quick how it all just escalated real easily.
Oh yeah.
So you dealt with all that, and you got the. I took it different approaches to get there. So I ended up that the pig fight was a pain in the butt because like they were actually close to equally leveled to my character. I think I managed to get to like level 52, where I was like at level 38 when I had a little bit of advantage when I first started the DLC, and then it started to upscale a little bit more. So these pigs are a pain in the butt because I almost got killed by them, and I didn't want to die, so I had to like constantly be rolling out of the way in order to avoid their rushing towards me, and I had to keep burning them with fire, which is the most effective. And luckily, I was able to take care of them, make equal work of them. Then you got to the tower, and then you walk in here, and you see Rapunzel hung herself with her hair.
Oh God, yeah. Because it's you've seen some dark stuff, but it's not that dark until you just come into the room and you see her just hung by her hair, and like, oh, fuck.
You fight her like her right spirit. It's very similar to like the Wraith's characters, where they're like, if you let them hit you, they'll take you down a lot in health. So they like constantly teleporting around the room, so you have to avoid them and start using those Yarden signs to slow them down. That was a fun little fight scene to finally get your last bean, and then you go ahead and plant them, and then they immediately go all the way up into the sky, and then you fight the giant, which is a cool fight scene as well.
They just a small moment of Shani and Geralt. Of Sienna and Geralt.
That's
trying to quickly hide from the beans.
Yeah.
And just the moment of pause, time goes by, and Geralt just like, okay, you know what, this isn't going to work. And then
I don't think I planned it right, and then he put some dirt on it, and immediately just sprouted.
Oh,
it was awesome. And so you end up climbing up the beanstalk, and you fight the giant. And before you go off to head back to the real world, Sienna just all of a sudden gets in the mood, and then you have the option to have the romancer for a little bit, and you like have this like this.
After killing the giant,
you have this pretty cool looking romance scene with them flying through the air and making love that way. And it was very cool to see.
I'm not even sure if it's romance. She's just DTF. And
pretty much, but I'm going down the scenic route of explaining it.
Toussaint, you want to take the romantic way.
I mean, this is a whole new landscape. We don't call it just sex scenes. We call it romance scenes. So we had that, which is a little bit of additional content. It was kind of surreal, to say
very
the least.
Interesting.
It was interesting.
They didn't reuse another one of those canned love scenes from any of the other love scenes in the game. It's like, oh wow, this is interesting. It's like Inception meets love scene.
Yeah, I ended up declining that one because I ended up watching it on YouTube, and I didn't want to piss off Yennefer because she, you know how she is. She gets pissed off.
She can teleport your ass into the center of a volcano, so I can understand.
So I didn't bother with that, and yeah, once you're out there, and we delve into yeah, we delve into a little bit more of the latter half of this story as it kind of concludes. The whole meeting between Sienna and Dettlaff doesn't really go off too well, and she ends up the pivotal item, the ribbon that he ended up getting for her, plays into effect later as she almost ends up getting, it was expected almost to her to get killed. She gets like teleported back into the fantasy world again as like a more of like a
like a life
safety net. Yeah, like a safety net, and it was just her intention all along. So Dettlaff, pissed off that she teleported and got out of his vicinity. This is when things get out of control, and you get to the point where like this is not going to work anymore. This is not, talking to him is just well beyond any logic or reasoning at this point. It's just filled with a lot of emotion. You cannot be the route that I initially thought would be the right way to go. It turns out to go sour. So you end up going to, and Regis understands this too. So he's willing to help you out here a little bit, and ends up getting a little bit temporarily disabled for the matter.
Yeah,
because he's so powerful, and then you end up fighting Dettlaff into like multiple forms. And I don't know how you even beat this guy. Like I had to change the difficulty to just the easiest difficulty, because he gets into this animation where he flies up, around. So he has like two forms. He's his regular himself, and once you fight him enough, he goes into a cutscene where he turns into more of a vampire that flies around. And he goes into this animation where it just all culmination of bats gathered together, and it creates this huge earthquake explosion, and you can't avoid it. Quen does not help either. Like, it just destroys your shield, and
it takes like 80% of your health.
It takes like half your health. I don't know how you beat this guy.
Alcohol.
And I didn't, and I was stupid because I really didn't really invest into alchemy, so I didn't create like vampire oil because I didn't think I needed it. And maybe I could have helped a little bit more, but honestly, I had no strategy for this guy. I had no idea on how I can avoid this attack that he does. So I had to change it on the easiest difficulty that I even have a chance. Even on the easiest was a little bit more challenging, but you didn't take as much health damage when you were on the easiest difficulty when he does that. And he goes into another stage where it's just this
blob.
It's just this huge blob, and you have to destroy this blood sacs so he doesn't regenerate health. Much like the enemy in the Hearts of Stone, where if you let them get close to the painting and don't destroy it, they're going to keep recovering and restoring their health.
Mm-hmm.
So much similar to that, you ended up using everything you got to incapacitate Dettlaff for a little bit. You didn't kill him because he still is pretty much impervious to anything you do. Only a higher vampire. This is where Regis comes into play, and ends up killing Dettlaff for the final blow.
Yeah.
After he was incapacitated by you.
Yeah, he's. I love and there's also a separate side story with Regis during this whole affair of events where Regis says, he constantly says like, there's something else I can do, but it's really dangerous for both of us, but especially me.
Oh yes.
And that's kind of in the back of your mind the entire time. Like, what's he talking about? And then you have the option to talk to whoever the vampire representative is of Toussaint, and you have the option to, I think, either talk to him or just trust in Regis. And I
didn't even do that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I'm not even sure if I'm representing everyone's general main expectations of how they go there. I mean, we could play with somebody or talk with somebody who just like, yeah, that none of the stuff that you talked about happened in mine, in my game, where apparently there's like a vampire who. Oh, for God's sakes!
So
hold on, I'll be right back.
It's all good. So the route I ended up.
All right, back.
So So the route I ended up taking for this, I think we take both the same routes. At least the first option we mentioned, what gave Regis the benefit of the doubt, and that we'll be able to find a way to non-combatantly disable Deadloff from continuing his further onslaught onto Toussaint.
Brings Sienna to.
Which didn't, it brings Sienna to him, which didn't really end up going too well after that. And I think that was the only option right now I could think of. But there was that, and then what the hell else?
There was you could either go to the playroom, or you could go to where you had the sit down with Regis, with Detloff, with Henrietta, and I can't remember the other hostess, but she was also a representative of the vampires. And she was... it's very interesting because there's a sense of we kind of don't really care about humans and we'll rebuild afterwards, but it's just kind of a pain in the neck. So, we'll try to help you. And I had the same ending where it was Detloff, you against Detloff. It was I'm going to see the animations in my nightmares because I just got them so deeply burned into my skull. Just okay, so I gotta roll here, but not roll here. I gotta dodge here. The second form is what got me the most. Just I could get the first form, that wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
The second form, that one was just okay, this is ridiculous because not only does Detloff he's got his bat attack, he's got his wing attack where he comes right at you. And he's got this area attack where he launches right at you. And the thing is that it's an area attack, but when he leaves, it leaves a kind of a small circular, not hole, but a circular magical trap that if you step in it, you can't escape. And so when he attacks you, it's Quen does nothing. You might as well be defending yourself with a sheet of paper. And and the problem is that you have to be consciously aware of what he's doing and where you are.
Yeah,
and
that was that one I had the most trouble with. I could not do it, man. And I just got so fed up with just dying and waiting for the loading screens. I could not figure them out. I had to...
no, I understand. I was right there with you.
Yeah, it was the one time where Quen, for 90% of the boss fights, worked tremendously, but this one did not do anything. Yeah, like you said, it was just pretty much pretty much protecting yourself with a sheet of paper. It did not do anything, and it just it got to the point where I just changed the difficulty, and it helped tremendously. So I was able to defeat him that way and just kind of get through it. I just wanted to proceed. I didn't want to get stuck and not be able to proceed, and I didn't want to watch the stuff on YouTube. It's no, damn it, I need to finish this. So that's how I ended up doing it, changing the difficulty, and I could not really think of any other way I could have beaten him besides that. It was nearly to, it was there was so much openings, little to impossible to avoid getting hit with all those different attacks that he had. Yeah. It was impossible. I don't know how you do it.
It was soul crushing. I was just I'm not even having fun anymore.
It turned into a Dark Souls fight, pretty much.
It was just I felt what was the amount of pleasure I would get from this, completing it, versus how much I actually wanted to continue the story, versus all the other expectations, and I was so tempted to knock it on down, and it wasn't out of no, I must complete it. I was just I honestly don't know if I won't get an achievement for this, because I'd like to get an achievement completing it on this difficulty, and I'd hate to waste it by switching at this point. And I also just was I'm sure it would just be one more death, and then I'll be able to master it. And just, oh boy, I was fuming by the end of it, and that was one of the only times in recent memory where after you beat the game, I was fuck yes, just slicing him down, and that was great to see. And I watched that cutscene play. I was listen, I'm probably not going to get this cutscene again on the first try for many times in the future, so I'm going to enjoy every single minute of it. And you have Geralt cut him down, but he's still alive since he's an elder vampire.
Yeah.
And so Regis has to kill him and do the coup de grace. And it's also very incredibly destroying because this was Regis's friend, and he just you don't see it. It's not an up close thing, but he says get out of here, Geralt, because this is just such an emotional moment. And then after it's done, he just breaks down. He falls on his knees, and he just holding his head in his hands and just, oh God, what has he done? And then you don't realize what he really did until later.
Yeah, it was very, very impactful scene there. And after, yeah, I tried, man. I did that fight at least 10 times, and I could not figure it out. I looked up information on it, but it was like completely not helpful. All I said was to stock up on stock up on vampire oil. It's like there's nothing. I can't avoid these attacks with vampire oil.
I'm pretty sure the guy who makes the vampire oil or sells me the ingredients is dead in Toussaint, so I don't think I can do anything right now.
It was, yeah. I mean, I really tried. I just, I probably could have beaten it if I invested a little bit more time to it. But I was so into the story, I wanted to finish it. So I just went ahead and didn't really care about if I got the achievement or not. I just knocked it down in difficulty just so I can get through it. I was just so into it. And then, yeah. So there was that, and then you had the. What was the unveiling with Regis? What did he end up having to do?
Oh, with I don't know if it's the same for anyone else's playthrough, but it was that you were hanging out in the graveyard and you were just drinking and just reminiscing and having a good time.
Yeah.
And then you go to pick I can't remember, but it was a poisonous flower or something to make into more wine or more ale, and then Regis is attacked by two Bruxas, which I thought was very funny because in game you can help him, but he kills them so quickly it doesn't even matter.
Oh man, I remember that scene where.
Oh yeah.
The scene where you go through Toussaint and then him and Deadloff show up to help you, and they annihilate every single knight there, every enemy that was like attacking you like in an instant. That was freaking amazing. I just stood there and watched. It's like before I even got to attack anybody, I instantly killed them. I was like, damn.
It was quite clear that they didn't need my help. It was like, okay, now I can see why the vampires are not very concerned about humanity. And it ends with Regis kind of looking over the dead Bruxa, and he says, listen, because it doesn't matter what the reasoning was, doesn't really matter what my explanations are. I killed another elder vampire, and so now I can never come back to Toussaint.
Right. I had the same. I think I had the same ending as you. I went through the same motions. I gave Regis the benefit of the doubt, and also we went through this process of picking out poisonous plants that had to get gloves and a mask for some reason. And then he ended up losing sight of where he was, and then we ended up rendezvousing off to a little bit further down the area that his hideout was, and then he saw that he was fighting two Bruxas, and it led to where you were talking about how any kind of vampires have resentment towards him for killing it, or no matter what the reasoning, so he has to go off somewhere else.
And I absolutely love this ending. It is it was just great because it is. I don't know if there's any other endings. There probably are, but I just love the fact that it's Regis and Geralt's last night together in Toussaint, and they're just saying listen, let's just drink beer till the sun comes up, and chat about some good times before I have to leave. And he said, and he asked Geralt, it's do you think you might want to live in Toussaint and settle down? And he said, yeah. I think I do. It's I think I deserve the rest. And then, he says, I think I might. Don't laugh. I think I actually do want to settle down Toussaint. And Regis says something to the extent of I think you deserve a rest after all this, Geralt. And then he says, you know what? I think we do. And he looks straight at the camera.
Yes.
And then that's the end of it. It's like, oh my god, I love that scene.
Yeah, that was awesome. How they kind of broke the fourth wall on that one, and then Geralt was looking directly at the camera.
Oh, they did it at the perfect time, where it was just okay, this is it. We'll have. Thank you for the adventures, but this is Geralt's last hurrah with us, and it's just Geralt looking at the audience and saying, "Yep, this is it. Thank you so much. You guys have been awesome." And then that was it.
I couldn't think of a more perfect ending than this. It was, quite frankly, one of the best DLCs I ever played in my life. This is I thought Hearts of Stone was amazing. This takes it to a whole nother level. Like, this is like such like the best thing I've ever played in my life. I told you immediately after I played this, like,
Yeah,
The Witcher 3, man, this is probably one of the best games I've ever played in my life. It's very,
No doubt.
It's very. I can't think of a whole lot of games I would say that about, besides maybe like less than a handful. But this is something that I'm completely, it's set in stone for me. Like, you put it on. If I ever pass, you put it on my gravestone. Witcher 3, the best game ever made. I've ever played in my life.
I completely agree. It is with what I love. Reflecting on CD Projekt Red, and there's a whole myriad of great things they've done for spectacular masterpieces. Like, this is what I think is one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had with anything. And what I love specifically about all these different, the main game, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, is that they all deal with expectations of choices, and they do every single variant of context and outcomes with all of them. I mean, you can have very straightforward morality, you can have a deconstruction morality, reconstruction, you can end up having dark morality for choosing good choices, vice versa, or dark for dark's sake, or good for good. And they do something which I have never experienced before in any other game, where they make you so uncertain of the outcome that every choice is not easily readable. And every choice, and just like somebody who's new to fiction, you're not making educated guesses about what's coming up because you don't know what's coming up. You're only making choices for the here and really the now. And of course you're making choices for down the line, but you still don't have any idea of what could happen. And more than the BioShock series, more than Deus Ex Human Revolution, I love those games in totally different ways, but with Witcher, these developers have made a game where I genuinely have no idea where the story is even going to lead to.
Yeah.
And that just, bravo.
It is, yeah, quite frankly, the best series out there. I mean, this is quite the best game. I mean, I thought The Witcher 2 was a great game as well. I mean, they've evolved so much from The Witcher 1, just kind of from like gameplay videos I've seen. They've gone so far from Witcher 2 to Witcher 3. It's like a tremendous change, just like Mass Effect 1 was to Mass Effect 2. Like, Witcher 3 it's a masterpiece. I cannot say anything like that. It's a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the best word I can describe it as. It is many things. It could be funny, it could be dark, it could be beautifully sad, it could be, it had, in this one had a happy ending. You know, it was actually, there was some levity to a world with such different variety of emotions and moralities that it just,
it's so many different types of fantasy. It's high fantasy, it's low fantasy, it's dark, it's dark morbid fantasy, it's traditional classic fantasy, and it has all these different stories, and they all belong together, and none of them feel out of place. And it felt the very same way that I felt about Red Dead Redemption in terms of how it explored different genres of westerns, but while not feeling out of sync with any other ones. And I mean, just Witcher, my God, this is going to be a game I recommend to everyone who has even the slightest semblance of interest in narratives or characters.
Just every single mission was very important and impactful in some way, shape, or form. I felt like nothing was wasted. Like, everything had its place.
Nothing felt like a Fallout 4 fetch quest, or even
all side quests. Some of them may be very similar and very very similar in respects to how you go about it, but all of them had immense density in terms of like what it was going for. All of it was very unique. It wasn't just like you said, it wasn't just simple fetch quests. Like the game side quests are incredibly well detailed and don't necessarily have you do a lot of fetch quests, like little to none. Like it was just all uniquely unique and all impactful in some certain ways, and they all felt like a lot of attention was placed into every single side quest, and there's a lot of side quests.
There's even parts where there's like some really interesting morality stuff too, where you remember the dinner scene with Henrietta, Regis, Detloff, and I'm trying to remember what the hostess's name was, and she has another side quest where you're saving her orphanage from a monster, and I think I don't know, I can't remember if it's connected to the monster with the spoons, but that was a great side quest too. But the spoon. I'm sorry?
Yeah, the spoon. The monster with the spoon was really interesting too. There was certainly an additional option you could have taken with that part in Tucson. Like you could have gone straight to where you needed to go for Sienna, but then there was like another option you had while you were like traversing the city and fighting against vampires, that you'd go check out and help out Oriana, and she would give you more information. But I didn't even. I was afraid that it would lead to something else. I wasn't sure like even to go there, and I just finding out now that there's like a whole little additional quest there with her, Oriana, and the orphanage.
And her side quest with the orphanage is that she. I don't know. Should I spoil it for you?
Too. She was a vampire.
That's not the spoiler.
Oh man.
Do you want me to say anything, or do you want to find it on your own?
Go ahead. That's all right.
When you get so she has an orphanage of her own, and when you come back to I'm sorry, it was another monster who just attacked the orphanage randomly because it smelled all the blood that was coming from the city. And thank you for reminding me. It is Oriana, who is the name of the character. And so when the vampires attacked the city, it smelled blood and then came out and attacked the orphanage. And when you kill it and go back to the orphanage, you see that Oriana is actually feasting on the blood of one of the last orphanage children.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and I immediately think, okay, this bitch is toast. Until, she tries to, until the orphanage kid says, stop, you have to stop doing this. Like, she took us in, she gave us food and shelter, and all she asks in return is some sustenance every once in a while to make sure she doesn't die. And so I'm just like, oh my god, like, I can't believe I'm put in this position. And it just, like, I couldn't, I was just, like, scratching my head, like, what the hell would I do in this case? Just, like, should I kill her? I mean, do I kill the kid? Like, what do I do about the kid? I mean, will anyone else take this kid in? And it was just, it was ridiculous of how many moral plays were going through my head of just, like, will this kid attack me and try to kill me if I try to kill her? And, like, what about the other orphanage children? Like, are they going to suffer too if Oriana's taken out of the equation? It's like, oh my god, I didn't realize I had to make this choice.
And you don't have the option to kill her, do you? Or do you?
No, you do not.
That's kind of interesting.
I was thinking just outside of the gameplay itself of just, wow, this is just, that is complicated as all can be.
Well, I'm just kind of reading some of the reactions here. I'm actually looking at the GameFAQs forums about, like, not even getting the option to kill her. It's just that Geralt was pretty pissed at her, and the last person I remember Geralt kind of being pissed at was, like, the Whoreson Jr.
Oh, Whoreson was the Bolton Ramsey of the Witcher universe, and this is, like, Oriana she's an elitist, but she has a soft side about her. And also, I gotta say, I absolutely love the big spectacle fair that they had in the middle of the artist, the Renaissance, where you could, like, where you throw, like, paint balloons at a sculpture, and people are like, oh, it's brilliant, it's showcasing his inner anger against society. Like, no, it's about spiritual awakening. And then it's like, Henrietta, who's with you, is like, yep, that's exactly what he was thinking.
That's crazy, man. That's a big thing that I missed. I can't believe it. It's crazy.
Oh my god, the little things everywhere.
gives poor homeless children a home only so that she can eat from them. This is real life equivalent of building an orphanage just so you can molest children. It's fucked up.
Well, you don't need to molest children to live.
That's true.
Oh my god! And it just so many little things just parade throughout everything. And I also love. Okay, one of the funniest side quests was getting the stolen testicles from a statue.
Oh yeah.
And you try to get them back, and you realize it's this old guy who just wants to take the testicles for the virility that because I guess the superstition is that if you rub his testicles, then you will actually be able to be more virile. And you see him, the old man, actually having sex with a young woman, and he's just like, and then if you give him the option of having them for another day, so he can have a bit more fun time. So that, because he's old and he probably doesn't have those many experiences, you come back and he's just like, yeah, no, it's not her, it's her cousin. Like, that's cool, I'm done. And it's just so funny because when you actually bring back the testicles, it's like, oh, it's so great, you must go up and touch them. Like, trust me, they'll make you as strong as an ox. And then if you do that, there's actually an animation of, like, Geralt looking back and forth and animating just like, I hope nobody's watching me do this. And then when you actually, after you rub the statue, then you get like a health and damage boost. It's just like, so that was worth it.
Oh, I didn't even rub that at all. I was just.
I can see why.
Yeah, it was a funny little side story with that older guy that stole them. That was like so. That was just like Viagra to him. He was just like just making love like for like hours on end with this this woman he was having an affair with.
Yeah.
When the husband came in and then used the Ard to kind of shoot him away. That was a night.
It's like, Juliet, I can understand one man, but two?
Yeah, that was funny because he showed up. You and him were there. It was, and you come back again. Like I actually let him keep them for like a day, and then you come back, and then he's like talking about how he's doing like. Oh
yeah, it's her cousin.
Her cousin.
Oh my god, that was like
funny.
These little side quests are once again terrific. Like, they don't waste a single role. Like, even if they're not the most memorable characters, you'll remember the situations or why the conflict started, or like something an interesting detail to latch onto, and you go, oh yeah, I remember that. Where one of them is a group of miners who won't work because a cow randomly dropped on one of the other workers, and they're afraid that will keep happening. So they get the Geralt to investigate why the cow dropped on the other worker in the first place. And just like those types of side quests are numerous, and they are so creative, and I love that they. Oh my god! Just like I mean, like BioWare and. I can't remember who works on the Deus Ex games. It's not iOS, is it?
It's Eidos.
Eidos, not iOS. Eidos, where they have a new standard to match, and of just like making everything worthwhile, and because I still love Dragon Age Inquisition. But there are some side quests where I'm like, yeah, that one's kind of forgettable. Like, oh, okay, I collect this, and this. They got competition.
Eidos Montreal.
Eidos Montreal. Intéressant.
I'm relatively looking forward to the new Deus Ex game. I still don't know a whole lot about it, but it left an impression on me. It had some flaws for sure. I hadn't played the director's cut to see kind of like a lot of the improvements they made apparently to the boss fights and stuff like that. But from like the original game, it had a lot of really good ideas. And while it didn't really hit everything on the head, but I'm very excited to certainly see what they could possibly kind of work off and continue maybe implementing with some more interesting ideas with the next one. So I'm very timidly excited for it.
I didn't think the boss battles were that bad, but it's just like, okay, yeah, with the rest of this game, these are just kind of mediocre, and it's more obvious because of it.
Yeah, they weren't bad. They were just unbalanced.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for the type of character that you wanted to make. Like if you're more of like a stealthy character, you're shit out of luck if you had to deal with some of those boss fights.
You had to pray to the ever sweet loving God above that you can
And I was
bash your way to it.
I was watching some gameplay footage of it, and like the non-combatant route, you had the ability to hack like turrets and actually use them as the attack against like the first boss you encounter, like the kind of flat top general looking guy.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty interesting. Like you can hack your way to defeat him or hack turrets and stuff like that. It was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. And Elias Toufosis is coming back as Adam Jensen.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for.
I always ask for this. I asked for that sequel.
I am excited to see if we get an appearance from the trash digging lady.
Oh wait a minute. Are we talking about the same character? I think we are. Of well, shit.
I hope we get that.
Oh, Captain, that's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I just love how out of place it is.
It is. That's why I liked it a lot.
It's just like, this would be weird for a 70s blaxploitation film. What the hell are you doing here?
Much like the kind of the out of place yet works well scene in like Pulp Fiction with Christopher Walken in The Watch. You know, that worked well.
Well, shit.
That reminds me of The Wire.
I like
Shit. Oh my god. She is wonderful. And Letitia, the trash lady.
Letitia, the trash lady.
Oh my god. But you know, back to Witcher 3 Blood and Wine.
So that was the conclusion primarily for the Regis and Geralt storyline. I think prior to that we get the kind of the trial or interaction between Anna and Sienna. I don't know what other routes they can go. This can lead to depending on what you do, but they end up having a discussion between one another, and they actually end up kind of making up after that. They hug it out.
I didn't tell her that. I didn't tell anyone that Henrietta was the fifth target.
I don't remember if I did or not. She had me stay while she came down to this area that we were at to kind of go through this trial or discussion between the two. I don't remember if I mentioned that or not. Not sure how much of a difference that makes, but that I think I did say it, but I was trying to be more subtle about it. I didn't want to tell her in front of everybody, so I didn't know that would happen like that, or she would come down in front of everybody. I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but I've kept it pretty straight up with her as well, so I may have mentioned it, but I don't remember. It's such a beautiful setup too. Like not even to mention, besides like the writing, a lot of the cinematography and the way that the camera angles are placed throughout the game are really well done too. Like it's like you get a lot of like scenic shots of the world of Tucson. It's just beautiful. Get a lot of perfectly well aimed camera angles as well.
Yeah,
as you transition from scenes, it's really well done too.
God, yeah.
Yeah, they ended up hugging it out and working things out together. There's some.
I'm sure there are other ones that end up just horribly.
Yeah, I'm curious to check those out as well. I heard something about them both dying indirectly in some way. Not sure how, but I ended up getting a pretty good, decent ending for the most part.
I'm sorry?
What was that?
I'll just say, leave it to CD Projekt Red to give you lots of different endings for the games, and lots of different choices for how things turn out.
Yeah, I felt like I did the best that I could. I wanted to get a pretty decent ending to all this. I wanted things to work out, and Geralt mentioned about wanting to ensure that in the dialogue option you have, ensure that people would have a happy ending and have all this craziness work out between the two. It did. And after the whole discussion you have with Regis, Geralt decides to go home, and then you go back to your home, your vineyard, and then you you hear from your home designer that some unexpected guest has arrived, just came in barging in, and then you discover it is Yennefer or Triss, I think, depending on what option you went.
It's actually, yeah, you have either Yennefer or Triss, Dandelion or Ciri, depending on.
Oh, really? Damn.
Yeah, they covered all the bases, because it's just like if I guess if Ciri, and also it's very interesting because it's like dependent upon how you ended the game or what part of the game you were at, you can actually have these characters come back and talk about specific events.
Oh,
and if you have if you don't have choose either Triss or Yennefer, and Ciri dies in the main storyline, or maybe becomes Empress and she doesn't visit you because she has a country to run, but then Dandelion comes along since he can't be killed in the story, much to the chagrin of some people. And then, but if you had Triss and Yennefer go away, and then you taught Ciri how to be a Witcher, she'll come to you then, or your romance options of Triss and Yennefer. And I love their interactions, and like. They don't use the same canned responses. It's not just like, okay, now you say this, and it's kind of what both of them could say to Geralt. It's like, no. They're different topics, and they're different responses, all in character. They didn't half-ass anything in this game.
That's pretty freaking cool, man. I didn't even know that. I wish that I also had Ciri stop by too, because I feel like we ended things on a good note. She ended up surviving and ended up going through the path of the Witcher, as kind of what my ending kind of entailed. And yeah, it's very cool how they work around that stuff. Like, just like Mass Effect 2, they did the same thing where depending on where you're at in the game, probably the Citadel stuff and the ending to that will act out a little bit differently depending on where you're at. But since I already completed the game before I started this Blood and Wine DLC, so things kind of turn out a little bit differently. But yeah, I gotta watch this YouTube video of Ciri stopping by to kind of listen to the dialogue. But yet again, man, I like just all the hard work to put into making everything, every choice matter, and all of them have very distinct scenes and dialogue. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it is fantastic. I cannot recommend this enough. This is up there with Minerva's Den. This is up there with Citadel. This is up there with Lair of the Shadow Broker. This is absolutely one of the best pieces of downloadable content in mine that I've ever experienced before. And it's not. It is the quality of a fully fledged expansion pack. Like back in the day when you wouldn't just get like you wouldn't get DLC back in the day. It was like physical discs, and so you got expansion packs where it was just like new single player stuff. This is incredible. This could, as you said, be sold for a separate game, but it's not. And oh my goodness, it is beautiful, and it is absolutely just what a fantastic way to end the game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just going through all the motions. It was such an emotional journey, and I'm happy yet sad that it's kind of done. Like there's won't be much. There won't be any more Witcher, as far as we know, Witcher games. But I feel like it's a perfect send off, and like it certainly left me with a great taste in my mouth and impression. Unlike Mass Effect 3 a little bit with the ending, and also like Arkham Knight, which is disappointing the way to end Rocksteady's tenure with that game. But this was perfect. CD Projekt Red ended this perfectly, and I'm happy.
I mean, how many times have we had our expectations met with every single part of the game and the DLC?
So many times that I can count, man. Everything was on point with this, with all the DLC and Witcher 3.
Oh my gosh! They constantly update. They're constantly contacting. They are so. And once again, I just love that scene of just Geralt looking directly at the camera, just like, "Thank you, audience for participating and doing everything here.
Yeah, it was awesome. I just loved how everything ended, and it's cool that you can go back to your vineyard. And I don't know if you can open up additional discussions, but you had a pretty decent back and forth discussion with whoever ended up paying a visit to your vineyard by the end of the game. And there's still a couple of other things that I want to finish up. There's still a couple of side quests that I haven't done associated with Blood and Wine, and also, they never forget. They always keep on adding on to the more love for the Gwent and
oh God, yes,
and the Witcher contracts, which are my favorites, because the Witcher contracts will occasionally, if not more than not, have interesting little side stories leading up to your encounters with the monsters you end up killing for the contracts. Usually it'll have something extra for you in terms of backstory. It's great. I love the series. This is a fantastic game. There's no question about it that you should certainly check out Blood and Wine. It is a well worth investment, as you already know. If you've already invested more than 20 hours into The Witcher 3, you're already well aware of this. This is a quality game. Not milking you at all for any kind of additional content. It's all well worth it. I would pay full price for this Blood and Wine DLC. I'd be honest with you. It is that good.
Yeah, there's no doubt. This is wonderful, perfect, inspiring. This is also something that from now on, no lazy developers or publishers can get away with. Just like if you think you can't have this kind of experience with this amount of quality and this level of polish, money might be an issue, but I know that creative content and space is not an issue, because look at how these guys have done it.
Yes. Spoiler. I was just running in the chat for Tag. I'm sure he's already no worries. He's probably had this on mute for more than that, because I know we were getting into spoilers, but I just typed in spoiler talk ending.
Perfect.
No more spoilers. Yeah, man. It was
quite a ride.
It was quite a journey. I had the same kind of same emotions, a lot of emotions going through me, and finished. I'm just happy that I got to play this amazing series of games, and such a great send-off. I can't say any more other than me wanting to play some more of what I have left over. Just amazing.
Absolutely.
On a side note here, I don't know if this is something that is a message at the end of the game, but I saw this on Reddit. This may be after the credits, but usually I skip them. It says here, a message from CD Projekt Red. It says, "Pew, that's a lot of people, right? So now that we've been properly introduced, we'd like to thank you one last time. Blood and Wine is the end of the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. We wanted to call it Sweat and Tears or Damn, we'll miss this, but we couldn't. However, as a studio, we've already embarked on other adventures. We promise you'll hear about them soon, and Geralt will always have a special place in our hearts, and we hope he'll have a special place in yours. Thank you for playing, thank you for supporting us, and thank you for spending your hard-earned money on our game. We hope you had fun. Love, CD Projekt Red."
Oh, well,
this is why they're the best developers out there right now.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that they got Good Old Games to financially support them, and they have great business practices, and they really do give their fans the best bang for their buck, and I cannot wait for to replay this entire series from the start with all the DLC and all the fixes and everything together. And also looking forward to Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, I'm very interested in starting a whole new game now. Now that there's been a lot more updates since its original launch. Like the original launch, I wouldn't say it didn't really have a huge game-breaking amounts of problems. It had a couple of little things here and there, like a lot of like texture pop-ins occurring. But other than that, like the final product that we have now, and with the updates included, it's certainly a lot more smoother, and things have been tweaked a little bit more. So I feel like there's been some graphical improvements on it as well, since they've done these recent updates leading up to this its last installment of the DLC. So I'm certainly be interested in playing more replaying it again, and seeing how that fares, how that changes, any notable differences.
God, I can't wait. I mean, they have made such an incredibly diverse cast of incredibly well-written characters, unforgettable lands, and opportunities to explore with adventure, and so many different types of fantasy. This is, I mean, Game of Thrones, I really hope it has an excellent ending, because it's already looking not as good as compared to Witcher 3 in its entirety. So I can only wish the best for those guys.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm there's not much else to say other than Witcher 3 is an amazing game, great DLC.
Mm.
And if you haven't played it already, you're missing out.
What are you doing here? Listen to us. Go get it.
Yes. But that'll be it. Thank you, folks, for listening. This is pretty much been our kind of a full-blown review and also kind of spoiler discussion on Blood and Wine. It was an excellent journey. Thank you, CD Projekt Red, for such an amazing game and making us believe once more in games can actually be really freaking good, and also that you don't have to deal with the nonsense with all we've been dealing with, these bad trends of DLC and season passes and then everything else, and just milking every cent you can on a series such as this. But it yet has not occurred at all, which is a perfect example of how developers and games should be made, where the content is actually well worth the price and is actually an expansion of the universe itself, rather than just some kind of real quick cash grab that doesn't have really much meaning to it. Yep. Every single thing in this game has meaning to it, and it has a lot of thought and detail that goes into it. It's amazing game. I cannot wait, and I'm very excited to see what they do, what the CD Projekt Red does next. I'll fully support them.
I mean, they uncovered every single stone you could possibly turn in the fantasy genre. I can't wait to see what they do with the cyberpunk genre.
I cannot wait.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, everybody, for listening to our quick review. We're going to go ahead and transition into something else here, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yes. See you later, ladies and gentlemen. And remember to always take care of your wet decks.